Welcome, welcome. We are so excited to be together today. Let's just wait a moment as everybody's logging in. We have over 100 people that were in the wait room that are joining right now. So let's just give it a minute as everybody is joining us. Excellent. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. We appreciate you joining the Commission on Teacher Credentialing to learn about the PK-3 Early Childhood Education Specialist Instruction Credential. We are excited to come together to learn about credential requirements, what programs are currently offering the PK-3 credential, to share updates, and to respond to questions. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted to the Commission YouTube page within 2 weeks. We will email a link of the email recording link to everybody who is registered. Let's go ahead and get our slide deck up. And people are still coming in. This is great. Thanks for being with us on your lunch hour today, everybody. We really, really appreciate it. So this is the PK-3 Early Childhood Education Specialist Instruction Credential webinar that's put on by the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. And we'll go to the next slide. And just a quick little reminder, everybody, we ask for no AI bots or transcription recording bots unless you have previous permission. We did have one person who contacted us before, so you will see one in that, but otherwise they will be pulled out. And the reason for that is we really intend to have notification ahead of time, because it's not intended to be just a blanket transcription of what this webinar is, but sometimes things can be taken out of context. So we want to make sure that whoever's getting the information has the context that surrounds it as much as possible. Thank you so much. Let's go to the next slide. And with this next slide, we're going to do some introductions. So hello, everybody. My name is Renee Marshall. I'm an administrator here at the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, and I get the opportunity of working in the Professional Services Division, and I work with everything related to early childhood education teacher preparation. With that, I will pass it over to Bronwyn Kennedy.
Thank you, Renee, and welcome everybody. Thank you for spending your lunch hour with us. We hope today is knowledgeable for you and full of information. There will be questions at the end, and Renee will go over that a little bit. I am really excited to be able to work on the PK-3 credential, and I hope this information is welcome for you today. So I'll pass it over to Dr. Deborah Keeler.
Good afternoon. It's such a joy to be here with you guys today. And my name is Deborah Keeler, and I am a consultant with the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, and I work with our ECE team. And we're excited about the information that we want to share with you today. All right, I'll hand it back to Renee.
I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Rosemary Wren. Thank you, Deb.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rosemary Wren, and I'm a consultant at the Commission, and I work in the initial program review team, along with other accreditation things. And my specialty is working on the PK-3 ECE Specialist Instruction Credential. So I'm glad you're all here today, and I'll pass it off to Nick.
Hi, my name is Nick Newman. I'm one of the career counselors in the License and Certification Division. I am the PK-3 subject matter expert in the certification and licensure division. So thank you for joining us, and I hope you'll get a lot of information from this.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Nick. I also want to give a shout out. We have quite a few other staff from the commission that are on this webinar right now in support. And so I want to just give a little shout out to our consultants that are on, our administrators that are on, and also our division director, Aaron Sullivan, will be joining us today. So just wanted to give a little shout out. It takes a lot of people to make the work happen, and it's important to acknowledge everybody. So before we officially kick off, everyone, actually, let's go ahead to the next slide, because we'd like a chance for you to do some introductions in the chat. And this is going to be exciting because we have a lot of people on right now. So if you could please share your name, your job title, and your affiliation in the chat, that would be great. And as you are working on that, I just want to reflect for a moment. Thank you so much to everyone who pre-submitted questions via the Zoom registration form. Many of your questions will be answered within the slides and the presentation today. If you have any additional questions after the webinar, please be in touch. We are here to help, and we are happy to provide technical assistance, whether that's us having a conversation via email or setting up a meeting to make sure that there's clarity with the information. It's important to know, though, there were some questions that were submitted that we will not be able to answer. And so I'm just going to give a sampling of those types of questions and a suggestion on where you can go to get those answers. So, for instance, one question that came through is, how long will it take to complete a PK3 program? What's the cost of a PK3 program? And so, if you want that information, we're going to tell you who has PK3 programs and where you can go to find out that information. But when there's information that's contingent upon the program, you're going to have to go to their individual sites to get what they are doing in relationship to that. That actually goes along with, too. There's somebody else who said, is there a way I can obtain this credential without having to go back to school and without taking out additional loans? I wish there was a way that we could, just grant credentials, but there's absolutely work and financial issues or challenges sometimes that can be involved in that. And so please know, though, if you're interested in information about financial aid, that's also something that can have some variation. You can get information at the programs that you're looking at. You can also get some information. The PSD News comes out every Friday, and we share grants within there if you're looking for more like program grants as well. We'll share a link later on in terms of how to get connected to the PSD News if you haven't yet. Another question that we're not going to be able to answer right now, but I want to give you just a little, hopefully you'll be able to come back for something else. There was a question asking for clarification on the differences between TK apportionment and TK teacher qualifications. While we're not going to spend a large time emphasizing that today, I do want to invite you to our October Community Circle. At the October Community Circle, which I believe is coming up on Monday, October 6th, we actually have representatives from the California Department of Education who are going to be meeting in addition to representatives from the Commission on Teacher Credentialing to talk a little bit about what our two agencies do, where the work overlaps, but also like whose work is whose to give a better idea. It can be pretty confusing. And so that's going to be a space where we'll be able to have some additional clarity and additional information coming out. We'll drop that in the chat too. Hopefully you can join us for that. One last question that I'm sorry that we're not going to be able to address, but I just want to throw it out there I believe in being as transparent as possible. We had a colleague asked and said, I am interested in getting this credential and I'm wondering, what can be waived for somebody who already has a master's degree in early childhood education? That is also not a question that the commission can answer. That is more program specific that you would have to go to. Now, here's the thing though. Like I said, most of the questions that you pre-submitted are already in this presentation. So what are the questions that we can answer? People have asked, who's offering PK3 credentials? Guess what? We're going to tell you exactly today who's offering them and where you can go to get the most up-to-date information on what programs in PK3 are being offered. We're also asked about what are the testing requirements for this PK3 credential? Talk to me about the CBEST, the CSET, the RECA. We are covering that today. Absolutely. We had another question. Should a student be pursuing a degree in child development or liberal studies as their bachelor's degree for PK3? And we're going to talk today about what those 9 approved degrees are that will help to streamline that transition into PK3. We also had one question that was asked that I don't think was in the presentation, so I wanted to make sure to bring it up and mention it to everybody ahead of time. Can applicants who have an ITIN, which is a tax ID number, apply for LiveScan and or a child development permit? And this was in question if somebody has an ITIN, but maybe doesn't have access to a social security, you have to have one of those 2 numbers in order to be able to apply for a child development permit. So yes, having an ITIN will allow you to apply for the permit, okay? There's one other piece too, and this was something that was brought up a couple times, and I wish we could deep dive into this. We're not going to go too deep into it, but we will talk a bit about equivalencies. The field of early childhood education has many, many colleagues that have been in the field for many years, and they're trying to figure out how does this equate? Is there a way that I'll get some sort of equivalency for the years that I have in terms of experience in relationship to this credential? Today, we will talk about what those equivalencies currently are, and hopefully there'll be equivalencies that will help to streamline the process for you. Last thing too, before we officially jump in, everybody, thank you so much for also submitting suggestions to us via the Zoom form. It became very obvious. There was one really specific suggestion that was saying, In my area, there is confusion about the PK-3 credential. The term specialist is throwing some people off at my county office of ed, thinking it's some sort of emergency permit. And so I appreciate that this was shared because it lets us at the commission know that there is a need for increased communication and possibly some infographics to help support technical assistance of this PK-3 credential. I just want to let you know your suggestion is heard, and we're going to try our best to be responsive with that. So thank you so much. Now, one last thing, everybody, and then we're officially jumping in. I promise. I promise. Also, I have to say this. Sometimes I say PK-3 on the credential. When I say that, I mean PK-3, Early Childhood Education Specialist Instruction Credential. So I apologize if it seems like I'm abbreviating it too much. It's just the full title is on the longer side. I also, just before we jump into the webinar, everybody, I just want to remind everybody, if you could please hold your personal questions until a later time, we would appreciate it. Because personal questions are best going to be answered with like an email or having a meeting. And that could be, hey, I've got my child development permit, or I've got a multiple subject credential, what now? You know, we're happy to answer those questions that are related directly to you. Now, if you have a question, like say we go through this information today and all of a sudden you still have a question and you're like, this is a question that everyone on this webinar needs to know, put it in the chat. If we have enough time, we will go to questions. We will try to respond if we're able to. And if not, we will try our best to find a way to respond at a later time. So with that, sorry that was wordy, Bronwyn, but you know, I
It's
just want to
okay.
share a couple of things. Well, and I
No,
think
it's
it's really
great.
important. Like we look at every single one of the questions that comes in and we build the presentation around it. So thank you everybody for being here today. I greatly appreciate the time, Bronwyn, and I will officially hand it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Renee, for all of that. We really appreciate your thoroughness. So before we get started with the requirements for the PK-3 ECE Specialist Instruction Credential, just a couple of precursors, reminders that this is a relatively new credential. We've only had this credential approved for about 18 months. So keep that in mind that when you ask questions that we're still looking at it, we're still saying, oh, let's see how this can work here, let's see how this can work there. But this credential is exciting for California. It was the first credential in over 30 years, and we're really happy to have this opportunity for our early childhood specialist instruction credential folks to have this credential out there in the field. So first and foremost, the PK-3 ECE Specialist Instruction Credential does have certain requirements that are different than the multiple subject credential. Anybody that looks to do this kind of program needs to have a bachelor's degree or higher from a regionally accredited institution of higher education. Specifically, either 24 units in ECE or child development, or a BA in one of 9 specific majors. And we'll go over those majors on another slide, but that right there is your subject matter requirement. So if you're looking at pursuing this credential and you have a BA in one of the 9 majors, you've already met the subject requirement. If you have a bachelor's degree in some other major, you would need to get 24 units in ECE or child development. So that is the subject matter. There is no CBEST or CSET required for this credential. All credentials in California, to be a teacher in California, you must have a teaching credential, whether that be a PK-3 ECE specialist instruction credential, a multiple subject, a single subject, all of our credentials out there. But to teach in California, you must be a credentialed teacher. And that is done through a completion of a credential program. Specifically for this credential, the PK-3 ECE Specialist Instruction Credential Program. This is imperative to do because this is where your teacher preparation coursework is going to happen. That theory and pedagogy for our earliest learners. And it must be done at a commission-approved PK-3 ECE Specialist Instruction Program. And we will go over which have been approved later on in our presentation. That credential program will also include clinical practice, which we're going to go over in depth, and introduce, practice, and help our future teachers assess teaching performance expectations. Now, I mentioned that there isn't any CBEST or CSET for this credential. However, there is still the passage of the commission-approved teaching performance assessment that is required. That is the PK-3 Cal TPA math cycle that is done in a PK through 3rd placement, and the PK-3 Cal TPA literacy cycle that is done in a TK through 3 placement. So back to that subject matter requirement and those majors. So a bachelor's degree or higher in a higher degree from a regionally accredited institution in one of the following 9 majors. So this is the major component. So if you have a bachelor's degree in child development, child and adolescent development, human development, early childhood education, child and family studies, early childhood studies, human development and family science, just family science, or child, adolescent, and family studies. Those are the bachelor's degrees that are covered in those 9 approved majors, and you would meet that subject matter requirement, or candidate would meet that subject matter requirement. If you have a bachelor's degree in liberal studies, basket weaving, information technology, any of those, that's when you're going to want to go and get the completion of the 24 semester units of ECE or child development. And always remember, any units that you provide to the commission must be done at a regionally accredited institution of higher education. And it's important that our future teachers know that. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Rosemary to talk about clinical practice.
Thanks, Bronwyn. So the clinical practice requirement is part of all of the preliminary teacher credentials in California. And so like the others, for the PK-3 credential, there is a requirement of 600 hours. And it is not a haphazard bit. It is a planned, developmental, sequential, and intentional set of activities that are integrated with the educator preparation program coursework. So you're learning coursework in your classes, and then you're going into a classroom and practicing that with actual children. So candidates will have a supervisor from the program, and they will also have a mentor with whom they're placed. So your supervisor from your program is generally a person who has recently been in the classroom themselves. They may be faculty from the university or the institution where you're working. It's a core element of the educator preparation programs. So it's there for a reason to prepare our candidates so that when they go into that classroom on day 1, those children get the teacher that they deserve. And that teacher feels confident and is ready to run that classroom and facilitate learning for those children in a way that they can feel good about. Programs offer all different types of clinical practice structures. So if you are a person who's thinking about going into a program, it's a really wise decision to go in and talk to different programs and find out the structure so it meets your lifestyle and your needs. It is possible to earn equivalency for some of the clinical practice requirement. If you are a person who's been in the field of early childhood education for a long time, you may very well qualify for one of the equivalency options that is available. There is no equivalency, however, for the kindergarten through 3rd grade placement. So this 600 hours is broken up with a minimum of 200 hours in PK-TK and a minimum of 200 hours in K through 3. And that other 200 hours is up to the discretion of you and or the program. So you can earn equivalency for that first 200 in your in the PK-TK, but everyone who pursues this credential will need to complete 200 minimum in the K3. So a little bit about that equivalency. This is, first of all, this is the only credential that we have in California that offers equivalency for prior work in early childhood education. So maybe we could have the next slide where it goes over the details on that. So there are 2 options for earning equivalency for clinical practice. And one of them is if you have worked in an early childhood education setting in the past. So there are very specific requirements that you need to meet because clinical practice is so core to the development of your teaching practice. So for folks who meet at least one of the following of those 3 criteria, either you have a child development permit at the teacher level or higher, you've been a lead teacher in a Head Start program or a lead teacher in Child Care and Development Center serving preschool aged children, generally 3 to 4-year-olds is what we're looking for there, and you have 6 years of satisfactory full-time teaching. The program must grant you 200 hours of equivalency towards your clinical practice. And let's say you say, oh, but I taught 4 years full time. That is wonderful. That's going to give you a great foundation, but it will not qualify you for this equivalency. So showing you in response to feedback from the field, there was a second option for clinical practice equivalency. So knowing that most of our early childhood educators have completed a degree or a practicum along the way in their preparation to become an educator, there is also an option for clinical practice equivalency based on practicum that you may have completed. Again, it needs to meet these specific criteria listed here. So let's say you did a practicum that was 90 hours in your associate's degree or in your bachelor's degree. You would get 90 hours of equivalency that you can apply towards your clinical practice as long as it meets all of these criteria, which I am not going to read to you right now because you can read those and they're listed in a number of places. But it's really, to me, it's a reflection of how the commission is trying to work with the field to make sure that we're meeting and respecting the needs of folks who want to earn this credential.
Rosemary, a question
Yeah.
already came in. I hope you don't mind, but it just goes so well with what you're saying here right now.
Sure.
So one of our colleagues put, can this be met by working summer school?
There are specific criteria. So if you are in a practicum, and it is a practicum that leads to it, that's part of a degree, it doesn't mean you got the degree, but it needs to fit the criteria that are listed here on this slide. It's very specific. And the best thing to do if you're interested to see if something you've done is applicable towards this equivalency is to ask the people at the program that you're considering, okay? Because that's who ultimately is going to let you know if it meets the criteria or not. But again, if we look at the equivalency issue here, think about the original thing about clinical practice. It's an organized, sequential, developmental effort that you do in a classroom so that you're prepared to teach young children. So pieces of experience here and there that aren't purposeful like that are not going to serve you well when you walk into that classroom. And also, this clinical practice is going to help you to be successful on your teaching performance assessment. So that's why we want to make sure we don't try to get out of clinical practice, because it's such a core element of the program. So I have one more little note on clinical practice. So a person, let's say I taught for 10 years in a preschool, and I also have a practicum. I had 150 hours or 200 hours in a practicum. I can put those two things together as long as I meet the requirements in both of the options for up to a total of 400 hours. And that could possibly take care of all of my requirement for clinical practice in a PK-TK. I still have to go do that K-3 clinical placement. If I taught for 15 years in a preschool and I had all the requirements for meeting the professional option, my program could decide to grant me up to 400 hours just for that. There are a lot of combinations, and we're not going to get into every possible permutation here. But again, your best resource in that situation is talking to the potential program. And if you're an institution trying to decide your process for this, you can talk to one of the other institutions that already does have a program approved or who is working on it. Or you can come to office hours and talk to us, and we'll help you with that. So with that, I think I'll hand it off to, I'm doing well on time, but I go ahead and hand it off to Nick so that we can keep moving.
Yeah, thank you, Rosemary. So a lot of questions have come up recently. Is a teaching credential required to teach in a TK, PK-3 public setting? Just a little history and background. For many years, It was kind of left open-ended. You could teach it with a child development permit. You could teach it with a multiple subject credential. It was kind of, as I like to equate it to, the Wild Wild West. It was kind of, you were allowed to teach. It's been narrowed down that you have to have a teaching credential to teach in a TK through 3 public elementary school setting. It's not anymore the case, oh, I have my child development permit. Can I teach TK? No, you'd have to have an approved credential that authorizes TK through 3. Just so that you know, I know they always get a lot of confusion, and Renee kind of mentioned this about apportionment at the very beginning. Just want to differentiate. Apportionment is not a credentialing requirement. So when you reach out to the commission and we talk about, oh, do I need 24 units to teach TK? I have a multiple subject. That's going to be under the Department of Education, not the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. We don't have anything necessarily to do that. We can tell you what the requirements are, but we don't enforce it because it's not a credentialing requirement. Also, another kind of misconception is that the multiple subject teaching credential does authorize TK. It is listed. It's not directly listed, but it is part of the authorization in the multiple subject. So just so you know that. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Thank you. So there is the second pathway. We kind of already talked about the first one. I'm going to complete a teaching credential program to earn the PK-3 ECE specialist instruction credential. I have a multiple subject. I'd like to add that on. Now, just to preference this, the multiple subject credential is the only other credential that can, I wouldn't say bridge, but add on the PK-3. If you have an education specialist in early childhood special education, there is no pathway to do so. There's no pathway to go from a single subject to the PK-3. It is only the multiple subject. And I'll go over how to do that because that's my area where if you submit your application, more than likely I'm going to be the one to evaluate it. So there's a couple of requirements that you have to have that are laid out in the regulations, and I always like to put parentheses, the law. You have to hold the appropriate English learner authorization. So there are instances where maybe an educator may have transferred their credential from a different state and they were held because they didn't have the appropriate English learner authorization. So if you have a multiple subject teaching credential, I would definitely make sure, do I have an English learner authorization? If you completed a California program, nothing to worry about. It was already embedded in your program. You're good to go. There are instances though where you may need to add it on beforehand. Then the next part is just meeting that subject matter competency for the PK-3 ECE Specialist Instruction Credential. It's either one of those 9 degrees or is the 24 units of ECE Early Childhood units from a regionally accredited college. A question came up in the chat I would like to just bring up. I already answered it, but I'll do it here so everybody can hear it, was can work experience meet those 24 units? Unfortunately, no. It has to be college coursework listed on official transcripts. So one of those 9 degrees or the 24 units listed on official transcripts. And then the last part is you'll just submit a direct application to the commission with all the supporting documents. In this case, it would most likely be transcripts, either showing your degree or the 24 units, along with the appropriate application fee. And I've already mentioned the email where you can directly contact me if you have a multiple set in the chat. If you have a multiple subject credential and you want to apply directly, I'm always available for questions. It's actually a fairly straightforward process, as you can see, to add that PK-3 ECE Specialist Instruction Credential.
Nick, there's one more question in the chat. If you don't mind going to it, you've said it already, but if you could say it again, I would appreciate it. Kelly's asking, our multiple subjects program authorized the holder to teach in PK through 6? So are these credential holders already authorized to teach in a public school TK through 3 setting?
Yes, they are authorized to teach in a TK PK-3 setting. Just to differentiate, you want to check with the California Department of Education on the apportionment requirements. Once again, that's not a credentialing requirement. The multiple subject does authorize the TK setting. And the last little bit I wanted to pull out is, say you have an out-of-state credential or you did a teacher preparation program in another country. There is no process. Again, the regulations, we've kind of mentioned it already. This is a brand new credential, only been out for 18 months. I know it can be a little frustrating, and we're, as Renee kind of mentioned at the top, always looking for new ways to improve pathways. But at the moment, there is no way for a person that has an out-of-state license to transfer it over to get the PK3 uh, credential or an out-of-country application route. The only other credential that you have a pathway is, as I've mentioned, the multiple subject, and then you add on the PK3 ECE specialist instruction credential.
Nick, you have a couple more questions in chat. Would you be okay if we go straight to them? I think you're going to be able to answer
Absolutely.
them right away. So 24 units in ECE, are they specific?
As not necessarily. The example I like to use is maybe it's from the English department, but it says children's literature. Very clearly that is a focus on early childhood children's literature. It really will come down to the course descriptions and how, when we evaluate those courses, the course descriptions, if the focus shows that it's an ECE. So don't get too tied up in that it has to be from a certain department. It's just like evaluating for child development permits can be very similar.
Perfect, perfect. And Nick, I'm looking at Rosemary put the wording in the chat. So 24 semester units or the equivalent quarter units of non-remedial degree applicable coursework at a regionally accredited institution of higher ed in early childhood education and or child development. So they can be upper division, lower division. It's not specified as long as they fall under the umbrella.
Exactly.
Great, 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 great. Excellent. Thank you.
I just had one clarification. I know that it can be very confusing that the PK-3 ECE Specialist Instruction Credential requires either a bachelor's degree in 9 approved majors or 24 units if you have a bachelor's degree somewhere else, as well as the CDE, the California Department of Education's apportionment requirements also require 24 units of ECE to teach in a TK setting as of August 1st of this year. The apportionment requirements is different than the credential requirements. So the credential requirements are very clear. To have the PK-3 ECE Specialist Instruction Credential, whether you're adding that on to a multiple subject or you're getting it as a brand new credential holder, you must have a bachelor's degree in 9 approved majors or the 24 ECE units. For the apportionment requirements, you would need to reach out to CDE because that's when different specifications come into play, like the LEA determines, or if you taught TKA before, those kind of things. That question needs to go to CDE.
I think we might have CDE on also. So if any representatives from Department of Ed are on and you could help in terms of who the best person for our colleagues to speak to about this, that would be great. And if they're not about apportionment, if not, then Kelly, you and I can email and I can help get you set up with the right person at a later time also. I also see a couple other questions. We'll get to those later, but I just want to mention, like Crystal asked, if community colleges offering 24 units of ECE, the majority of California community colleges offer early childhood education. Not every single one, but I think it's like 90 some out of the 116. So it's majority. You also asked if Cal States will be offering some PK-3 programs, and we'll be sharing those soon. But yes, there are some Cal States offering, Crystal. So thank you for letting me interject, everybody, and let's keep going.
Okay, so there are such great questions in the chat, and I know that, again, a lot of them will address where we still have more information to share in the slides. And then there are a lot of opportunities between community circle and office hours and things like that, or straight emails to us. So we do want to answer those, but so hopefully some of them will get answered here. So there are 4 main ways to go about to design a program for the PK-3 ECE Specialist Instruction Credential. And all of them have are we good? Oh, sorry. Okay.
Sorry about that. I think we are now. Thank you.
Okay, cool. All right. Sorry about, so as in the center of our infographic, we have the elements that all pathways are going to require. All candidates must meet the subject matter competency requirement. All candidates will do clinical practice, and all candidates will take a performance assessment at the end of the program. The good old-fashioned way that is not everybody's favorite way to go, but it's the way a lot of folks have done it in the past, is this traditional student teaching. And this is for folks when these are programs that are designed as a graduate level program where you have completed your bachelor's degree, and then it's a 1 or 2 year graduate level program that is full-time school and then clinical practice during the school day. Now, traditional student teaching doesn't mean that you're going to school during the daytime necessarily either. There's a lot of programs that have a lot of creative ways to provide you the coursework so that you can balance it with clinical practice. We often get questions, oh, can I still work in a program? Well, depending again on the structure of the program you choose, you may be able to work part-time throughout the program. You will have all of these will have 2 placements, one in PK-TK at least, and one in K3, unless you end up in one of those equivalency pockets. And that's something, again, you would talk to your program about specifically. A residency is kind of an added value student teaching program. And this is where you would be placed with one main teacher for the whole year. So you start the year, I love that first day of school, back to school night, all that kind of stuff. So you're with one teacher for most of the year, but you also have time in your program where you will be able to be placed in the other grade level band. So let's say you are in a kindergarten classroom, if that's your main classroom, you have to be in there in most cases for about 50% of the time. And then during some of that other time is when you would work out how you would get in that PK-TK time. Interns, and so residency and also interns, these are all post-baccalaureate. So you already have your bachelor's degree in whatever you have your bachelor's degree in. Interns are a little different. It's definitely learn by doing. You are the teacher of record. So you are a full-time employee of the district or institution where you're working. It has to be a public school. There are no internships in private schools. It's generally a 1 to 2 year program. You do pre-service coursework before you start, which is like the basic big picture of education. And then once you start your program, you are teaching during the day, and at some point, either at night or online or both, you are doing coursework. The great news is you're getting paid full time, you have benefits. It's hard. I mean, it's hard to just jump into a classroom, but it's a great option for a lot of people because it allows you to, let's say you were working in a classroom before in an early childhood setting, maybe, or in another setting where they didn't require a credential. And now you're jumping in to be the teacher of record. It's a little tricky getting that second placement, but I know we have folks actually on the webinar today who run these programs, and I know they're very generous with sharing their ideas. The last one is an integrated undergraduate program. These are being offered by a couple of the institutions who are approved already. And this is an opportunity to earn your bachelor's degree and your teaching credential in that bachelor's program. 4 years, maybe a little more, depending on the program and how you navigate the coursework. So you earn your bachelor's and your credential at the same time. So that is the one situation where you don't have to come into the program. You don't have to think about coming into the program with the subject matter met, because the work in that program will meet the subject matter. So there's a lot in this one slide, so I'm sorry if I went over, but that's
it's so fun, Rosemary. Actually, let's go back to that slide for a second, because literally I was telling myself, this is the slide that people are going to rewind, or maybe I'm dating myself here, but like play back over and over and over, because it's complicated when we're looking at those different pathways, but it's important to have as much information as possible so that way people can make informed decisions of what's going to be best for them. Rosemary, before we go on, I'm wondering if you can look at Jen's question here. Jen says, I'm still stuck on the fact that applicants don't need 24 units of ECE if they have one of the 9 degrees. Now, get me if I'm wrong on this, but one of those 9 degrees, those people are going to have more than 24 units of ECE in those 9 degrees, right? Because those degrees are going to hold they're going to hold ECE units plus the general ed requirements. So am I correct on that?
Yes, and again, that was another thing that was a response to the field early on in this credential, because at first I think it just there were just two named degrees, and a lot of educators got in touch and said, hey, but these are some of the main undergraduate degrees that are very concentrated on early childhood development, human development. So that's where we went from two possible majors to the 9. And honestly, if my degree was not in an educator topic at all, my undergraduate degree. So I had to fulfill the subject matter and get my teaching credential, right? So if you have a bachelor's degree in one of those 9 majors, what the commission is saying is we acknowledge that those majors include a great wealth of information and practice with early childhood education and human development. So it's actually, those are probably even more demanding. And the 24 units of ECE or child development coursework that you can do, hopefully it's put together in a thoughtful way and it's meaningful and is really applicable. It also gives people an option to take a class here and take a class there until they can add up to that 24 units. So looking at as many flexibility options as we can have, because we know that the program, it's a rigorous program for sure. And so trying to get people in the door in some flexible ways. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Rosemary. Nick, I'm wondering too if you could possibly touch on something before we go into the programs. We're having some questions about, we've got a lot of people in ECE that have huge amounts of experience, but what is the law in terms of like having that credential? You know what I mean? It's because it doesn't just equate. It's not like we can say, oh, somebody's, been in a lead position for 10 years, therefore they get a credential. It's not how it works. So is there any way you could just reflect on that for a moment?
Yeah, because in my work, I get this question a lot when it comes to not even just this specific credential, but like people that want to get into education. Like I have 3 doctorates. Like, why do I like? Once again, it goes back to that the law, the regulations state that a program has to be completed. You have to have a credential to teach. It can't just be based on experience. There's nowhere in education code that we can just issue you a credential because you have all of this experience. You have to either do the program for a PK-3 ECE specialist instruction credential or already hold the multiple subject and then add on the addition of the credential. There's just nowhere in the actual law that states you have all this experience. We can just award an individual a credential.
Thank you so much, Nick. We're also happy to meet with anybody who's got a situation where you're like, hey, I've been doing this a long time. What can count? And here's the thing. We'll be as honest as transparent as we can be. You might not like every single answer we give you, but we can tell you if you want to pursue this, here's what you have to do. So we'll try our best. And of course, we're also trying to streamline this as much as possible for people. So please know that that's always one of our goals from the commission. We want to bring down barriers and make these credentials and licensures accessible for people who are interested in obtaining them. So please know that. Okay, so now to this exciting part. So where do PK-3 credential programs exist? Let me say it correctly. PK-3, Early Childhood Education, Specialist Instruction Credentials. So right now we have programs existing in 11 different places in California. They're listed here, and on here it also talks about what type of, some of them are integrated or residency, and shows the type of programs that are available. So we have a combination of CSUs, of private institutions, and of county offices of education that are currently offering. As you can see by the list, but notice each one of these groups is offering kind of their version of what their program looks like. So San Jose State, you can get a post-baccalaureate traditional student teaching, residency, intern. Fresno State is, I'm not going to read all of it, but Fresno State also has an offering. We've got Riverside County Office of Ed, San Diego County Office of Ed, a private university, Vanguard University. We've got Cal State University, CSU Dominguez Hills, Biola University, which is another private university. We've got San Francisco State University and Cal State Long Beach coming in. So some more of our CSUs coming in. Also CSU Stanislaus. And at this point, lastly, Placer County Office of Ed. Now, something exciting for everybody to know is that there are more programs in the queue. It takes a little bit, it takes probably about a year for a program to get accredited, depending on it's a back and forth, like reciprocal kind of process. So it does take some time in order for it to go through. There is a chance that we could be having a webinar update 1 year from today, and this list of 11 could be much closer to a list of 20. So there is definitely some in the queue. Like we said, we can't promise in terms of when they'll actually get through the whole process, but process is taking about a year for the different groups. It's important, though, that as you're either looking to build a program or to choose a program, you want to like go and check it out. Like you can talk to people at Cal State Dominguez Hills or Biola or Vanguard or Riverside County Office of Ed. These are colleagues who are willing to go, here's what we're doing that's working, here's what we're doing that, here's some bumps we ran into that maybe you can avoid. It's really smart to talk to the people that have the programs and figure out what's going to be best for you in terms of you personally or for you in terms of program design. Let's go to the next slide. In addition, now we're going to drop this in the chat. We have got this website here or this link at the commission where you can search at any time and find out exactly what type of programs are available. So you could search for multiple subjects, single subject, your PK-3 credential. You go to this website, you type it in, and you can literally look and see. And you can see on the right too, the list of institutions by the legend. You can see they're kind of they have different colors and different graphics. And so it'll give you a sense if you're looking at a CSU, County Office of Ed, private institution. So this is a great way to stay up to date with what's available. You're also always willing to email us and say, hey, I need an update, or can you send us the link to where it is listed on the website? We are always happy to share. Let's go to our next slide. And I think with this, I'm handing it over to Rosemary.
Hi again. So these are just pretty self-explanatory, but we do have resources available to you. These are all links that you will find on our website, but they're just kind of organized in with the interest of PK-3 ECE Specialist Instruction Credential. We have our own page that I would check for updates because we have been updating the information. And so whenever we do an update, we add it, we'll add a document to there if we've updated, like we just updated the clinical practice guide, and I realized I don't think we have it on this, but that's okay. I'll drop it in the chat for you in a moment. But these are some ways that you can explore and find out information for yourself. And then also, again, think of things, if you can't find it there, then you're welcome to email us directly. We really encourage you, if you're an institution, to use these resources. And then for candidates, if you are looking for, what do I need? I know they said it in that webinar, but I don't know what I need. Here are some resources that are designed specifically for you, and that will put you in touch with Nick and his colleagues who can really help you make the best choice for you. For institutions, subscribing to the PSD News, which is our division newsletter. Again, when there are updates to programs or opportunities to review programs, which if you are a part of an institution that is running educator preparation programs approved by the commission, we are always looking for reviewers in initial program review, and it'll get posted there. So if you have questions about that, you can email us. And I think on the next slide, it has more initial program review information. There at the top, I noticed somebody asked about office hours. So if you're proposing a program, the IPR team is who you'd want to talk to. If you're a candidate who's interested in the credential, then check out the second batch of information here with the credentials team. So the career guidance, and that, again, that's Nick and his colleagues who have developed the roadmap to teaching for you, and a lot of other information that, again, I know it can be overwhelming when you're starting this out. So this is a good place to start. So I will.
Rosemary, before you go, there's a question for you right now. Has the handbook been updated? The date on the website is currently showing 2023.
The currently posted handbook is the current handbook. The name of the file, I think, says 2022, but the handbook that's up there right now is the current version, as is the clinical practice guidance document we just posted that recently. So
Excellent. Thank you
yeah.
so much. Also, one of our colleagues, Jeannie, who's from Shasta Community College, put in the chat, this is the last thing I do every Friday is read PSD news. And I was in a meeting earlier today where I talked about how before I joined the commission, when I was faculty, every single Friday it would come out at 3:30 and it was like my way of ending the week. I always would go through it. I'd look for resources. I'd look for webinars I needed to go to. So I love that Jeannie just said the same thing. If you're not doing that, please make sure you sign up for the PSD News. It is a really great newsletter. We also include like some like different offerings from colleagues that have things to share. So it's really, really good. Cindy, we'll make sure we drop it in the chat before we log out today. It'll also be on the slide deck, and we have a QR code where everybody can access the slide deck, but we'll also be sending them out. Or if anybody has any issues, let us know. We'll make sure that we drop our ECE email in the chat. The ECE email, it's great because it goes to Debbie, me, and Bronwyn directly. And so we're on that every single day. Thanks, Rosemary.
Yeah, and the IPR, we have no bots. We are people too. So it's Kiyomi Meeker who's on right now, and myself who will be answering your questions if you have program development questions. So there you go. And I just dropped the PSD sign up in the chat there for you. But again, it is linked in the slides.
Excellent. And I think we've got our next slide.
Yep. We have our ECE resources. So I'm happy to tell you a little bit about that. So we have our child development permit, and that is a pathway to the PK-3 credential. And so you want to consider that, think about that. And so our webpage is listed there, our early childhood education page, the Child Development Training Consortium stipend program that helps folks get into the field in early childhood development. And there's stipends available for that. Also, we encourage you, as was mentioned, to subscribe to the ECE news. That comes out once a month, and it's an opportunity for you to stay abreast of our work here at the Commission. And then we have subscribe to the PSD news. If you're a program sponsor, institution, and really an educator too as well, it gives you inside information on what's happening with the Commission. That comes out on Friday weekly. So we have a link to that. We also want to offer you an opportunity to attend our Office Cafe, which is held on the third Tuesday of the month. And that is an opportunity for you to come and to share with us. We have usually a topic, and then we have an opportunity for you to ask questions for us here at the Commission regarding any of our credentials or permits that we are involved with. We also encourage you to come to our ECE Community Circle. That's coming up on October 6th, and the registration link is there. And our presentation this next month will be on the unique work of CTC and CDE. So you won't want to miss that. And please feel free to contact our ECE team at any time. As was mentioned, our email is there. So I know we've gone off slides, but we do have our last slide that is a QR code linked to the presentation. So,
and we'll drop the direct link in the chat.
That would be wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Debbie.
Yes. All right.
One of the things I love too is watching the talking and the communicating in the chat. It's because people are like, wait, where's an online version for a PK-3? And right away, Vanguard's like, we've got that. Placer's like, we've got an online intern. Shasta's like, we've got online classes. And the great thing is Shasta's a community college. So if you're looking for those 24 units of early childhood education, Shasta has them online. If there's any colleagues who is online and is in need of finding courses in Spanish, ECE courses in Spanish, please feel free to reach out to us. We don't have any sort of like formal documentation, but we've been working with CDE and with the CCC TPPs to figure out who's kind of offering Spanish courses in ECE, and we have an informal list we'd be happy to share if somebody's trying to look and trying to find a resource for their local region or community. Oh, yes, we can absolutely put the QR code. Absolutely. I see others adding that they have some offerings in the chat too, which is great. Nick, Nick or anybody who's on, were there any other questions in the chat that you'd like to address right now?
Yeah, I would
Okay,
I would
great.
like to bring up one I see right here that says someone says I think it's a technical college has Spanish courses. I want to point out that that technical college is not regionally accredited. I see that all the time when it comes to child development permits. So be aware that taking those courses wouldn't meet subject matter because they're not regionally accredited.
Thank you, Nick. Really appreciate that. And that's the last thing we want is for somebody to take coursework that later on won't count for them. So if you ever have like, hey, I need to run this through somebody, feel free to contact us because we're happy to show you where you can find out in terms of the accreditation from the programs that you're looking at. Nick, all of them put that on their websites, don't they, usually?
Usually.
Yeah. Okay, great, great. Now, I know we're only at 5 minutes left here till we wrap, but are there any other burning questions that anybody has that they'd like to unmute and see if we're able to answer on the spot? We'll try our best to answer on the spot if we can. If we can't, though, we'll say we have to, bring this back to you at a later time too. But is there any questions that anyone would like to ask on the spot?
I saw someone said the QR code was not working. We can drop the direct link in the chat as well. We have the direct link
Perfect.
in the chat. I'll make sure to
Perfect.
do
Thank
that.
you
Yes,
so
I
much.
have a question.
Yes.
Hi, I'm in an administrative position. I hold a site supervisor permit in ECE, and I have 10 plus years of experience as a lead teacher, as an administrator. What would be my standards, and where should I direct my request?
Yes, I saw your message and I'm going to shoot you a message back so that we can meet and directly talk about your specific situation because we want to make sure we get all the information from you and that way we can guide you as best as possible. Okay, so I'm going to put this in the chat right now in a private message to you. So please make sure you get it. Okay. And it's just renee.marshall@ctc.ca.gov. So I kind of follow the same process of in terms of the pattern. But let's go ahead. Yaneldis, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, but Yaneldis, let's
Yes,
go ahead and
thank
plan
you.
for us to sit and meet and talk together. I think we'll also pull in Rosemary or somebody from that part of our team as well too, because we want to make sure we give you as much information as possible.
Thank you, Renee.
Of course, happy to help. Edmundo, I see you were going to come off mute, but I believe Vivian's hand might be off first. So I hope it's okay if we go to Vivian first, then we'll come to you second. Perfect. Thank you. Hey, Vivian.
Hi. So part of what I do is I'm an academic advisor and I help teachers find programs, the P3 credential, and I have a list that I've created from the CTC website. But what I have difficulty in is finding out who the main contact person for the P3 credential is. And I can go in circles. And so that's difficult. So I did put it in the chat and I was wondering if something like that could be created. Like I know our COE is Andrea Mazo because I've already connected with her, but I have teachers that are in Vanguard and another school. I have my list back there. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
But
Vivian, I
it
can
would
add.
really help to be able to connect with them because I oversee the early education teacher development grant. So these teachers will qualify for our reimbursement or stipend. And so it's really important to be able to make that connection to see how long their program's going to be
Mhm.
and the cost and everything so that we could budget to make sure that we're able to cover their entire program, especially now since the grant has been extended to June 30th, 2028. So that
Vivian, I
helps us to.
appreciate you bringing this up, honestly, because it's important to note that while these programs are being created, you also might have like movement at a campus, but you don't have the
Mm,
person yet. You know what I mean? Sometimes the
yes.
person comes after things have been in motion. So, Vivian, I'm happy. Why don't you and I connect offline? Happy to
Okay.
get you connected with Vanguard and any of the other, people that you need to, because we want to make sure we can help.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Vivian. Edmundo, what was your question or
Yes.
comment?
Renee, thank you. Just looking into the future, if somebody already has a PK-3 credential, so they've been teaching K-3 a number of years, and now they say, I want to teach fifth grade. If they want to add a multiple subject credential, is it just a matter of taking the CSET for multiple subjects?
Edmundo, at this time, that does not exist. So
Okay.
I'm not sure if Nick wants to talk about that, but when we talk about, the future of trying to, create additional, additional pathways, break down additional barriers, at this time, unfortunately not. Nick, is there anything you want to say in relationship to this? Nick or
Yeah, that you
Rosemary?
kind of mentioned it, just not at this time. It's like I said, it's a process to add those sort of things. So yeah, not at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
But I do want to say though, Edmundo, like if you have ideas or based on your experience, you're like, wait a second, this piece is missing. Please always like offer, like be like, hey, let's have a conversation because that's how things get better is by, you know what I mean? Like when we see a kink, let's figure out a way to fix it. So let's keep the conversation going. And I just want to invite everybody to keep the conversation going because what we're talking about here is important, but it's also evolving. So it's important for us to come together. It's important for like that. This is one of the reasons why we started Community Circle was because of the PK-3 credential. So please come and join us at Community Circle, Office Cafe. And if you need us to offer additional spaces or places for communication, please let us know. We're trying to be receptive and we're open to any ideas you have. Now, with that, I think we're at the very end. Bronwyn, do you want to officially take us out?
Yes, thank you all for joining us today. As we've mentioned a couple of different times, we did put the slide deck in the chat. It goes to a PDF folder. It is not a survey. It is the actual slide deck. So please access that. It will also go out in our follow-up email. So beyond anybody that registered will get the follow-up email and we'll get the link to the slideshow as well as the link to the YouTube channel when this posts. Thank you so much. I hope this was informational for you. And if you have any further questions, please reach out to the ECE team, IPR team, or the certification team. Have a wonderful Tuesday. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, Renee.
Take care, Job.